Today's lesson objective: students find and compare slopes of lines and determine if lines are parallel or perpendicular. So today's lesson is a review of some Algebra 1 topics. So first let's talk about what it means to be positive, negative, and so on. A positive slope is a line that is rising as you go left to right. Think of reading. We go left to right when we read, so we're going to do the same thing to determine slope. So if I look here at my figure, I can see that line C is going up as I go left to right. So line C has a positive slope. Negative slope is just the opposite. It's falling as you go left to right. So again, looking at the figure, I can see here that line E has a negative slope. Zero slope, slope is rise over run. Zero slope means there is no rise. It's not going up at all. It is a horizontal line. And so looking at the figure, I see line D is a horizontal line. And then finally, undefined slope. Undefined is when we divide by 0. That means there's no run. And so it's not going left or right. It's just going straight up and down. That's a vertical line. And in our figure, we've got two of those. Line A and B both have an undefined slope. So if I want to find slope in a coordinate plane, I know slope is rise over run, which is y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So basically we're finding the change in y and we're dividing it by the change in x. So for example 1, I'm going to find the slopes of line A and line C. So first looking at line A passes through 0, 2 and 4, 6. Now when you have a graph, you can just count the rise over the run, but I want to make sure you also know how to do this numerically, so we're going to go ahead and pretend like we don't have a picture. So I'm going to find the slope of line A. So it's going through 4, 6 and 0, 2. So if I do y minus y, I do 6 minus 2. And then x minus x, I do 4 minus 0. And you want to leave it in the same order. If you decide that this is x1, y1, then this has to be x2, y2. You have to start with the same one. Otherwise, you're going to have the opposite sign of what you should. So 6 minus 2 is 4. 4 minus 0 is 4. And then that simplifies to 1. So the slope of line A is equal to 1. Okay, now I'm going to look at line C. Line C is going through 0, 6 and 4, 6. So I'm going to let this be x1, y1, and let this be x2, y2. The slope of line C is going to be 6 minus 6 over 4 minus 0. 6 minus 6 is 0, and then we have 0 over 4, and then 0 divided by anything is just 0. So the slope of line C is 0, which shouldn't come as a shock since it's a horizontal line. So now I'm going to give you a chance to practice finding slope. This time you don't have a graph. So on your own, try finding the slope of the line that contains the points -2, -5, and 5, -2. Pause the video now. Okay, so when you plug it into the formula, you should get -2 minus -5 over 5 minus -2. And so when you subtract a negative, it becomes positive, so negative 2 plus 5 over 5 plus 2, and you end up with 3 over 7. Be sure and be careful with your negatives when you're doing these problems. Okay, the slopes of parallel lines postulate. Two non-vertical lines are parallel if and only if they have the same slope. And any two vertical lines are parallel. So for instance, suppose you have, well, first of all, remember the slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So if they give you the equation of the line, it's going to be easiest if you put it into y equals mx plus b form. For instance, if you have y equals 2/3 x plus 7 and y equals 2/3 x minus 8, you can see that these lines both have a slope of 2/3. And so if they have the same slope, then that means that they're parallel. And then if you were dealing with vertical lines, how that would look, vertical lines they aren't in the y equals mx plus b form. They can't be. Vertical lines are when you have x equal to a number. So for instance, x equals 2 and x equals negative 3. Those are both vertical lines. And since they're both vertical, you know that they are also parallel. If we have perpendicular lines, then the perpendicular lines postulate states that two non-vertical lines are perpendicular if and only if the product of their slopes is -1. So what that means is that the slopes are opposite reciprocals. So for instance, suppose the slope of this line is -2, and then the slope of this one would have to be the opposite reciprocal 1/2. And if you check that, -2 times 1/2, sure enough, that equals -1. The other thing you should know is that any horizontal line is perpendicular to any vertical line. Any horizontal line is perpendicular to any vertical line. And so how that would look if you had any equations, y equal to a number is horizontal. So for instance, y equals 5. And then a vertical line is x equals a number. So suppose you have x equals -2, that would be your vertical line. And so because one's horizontal and one's vertical, you know they're perpendicular to each other. So on your own, I would like you to do this problem. If a line has a slope of 3/7, what is the slope of the line perpendicular to it? Okay, well, if lines are perpendicular, that means that their slopes are opposite reciprocals. So since 3/7 is positive, my perpendicular slope is going to be negative. And then I take the reciprocal, so 7/3. So the slope of the line perpendicular to it would be -7/3. Okay, for example 2, we're going to find the slope of each line and then determine which lines are parallel. So I'm going to start with line K1. The slope of line K1. K1 is going through the points -3, 1, and -4, -6. So I take y minus y, so -1 minus a -6, so that becomes +6. And then -3 minus -4, so that's -3 plus 4. -1 plus 6 is 5. -3 plus 4 is 1. And so that equals 5. Looking at line K2, K2 goes through the points 1, -4, and 2, 2. So 2 minus a -4 becomes +4, and 2 minus 1 on the bottom. So we have 6 on top, 1 on the bottom, and so that slope is equal to 6. And then finally we have line K3, which is going through the points 3, -3, and 4, 2. So 2 minus -3 becomes 2 plus 3, 4 minus 3 on the bottom. So we get 5 over 1, which is equal to 5. So I know, therefore, that line K1 is parallel to line K3 because they have the same slope. Okay. All right, so for example 3, I've got line H that passes through the points 1, -2, and 5, 6. I'm going to graph the line that's perpendicular to H and goes through the point 2, 5. So first of all, I have to graph the line that they gave me. So line H is going through 1, -2, and 5, 6. So I'm going to draw the line that goes through those 2 points. Okay. Now I'm going to graph the line that's perpendicular to it that goes through the point 2, 5. So I'm going to go through the point 1, 2, 5. Okay. So first of all, let me figure out the slope of line H. It's going to be 6 minus -2, so 6 plus 2 over 5 minus 1, which is 8 over 4, and that's 2. So my perpendicular line has to have a slope that's the opposite reciprocal. So instead of positive, now it's going to be negative, and it's going to be 1 over 2, the reciprocal. So that means that my rise is going to be -1, and my run is going to be +2. So I start at the point they gave me, 2, 5, and I go down 1 for my rise, and over 2 for my run. And that gives me another point. And then you can do that again to get a third point. And then you can just draw the line between those points. And that is the line that would be perpendicular to line H going through the point 2, 5. Okay, so I'm going to give you a chance to do one of these on your own. We're going to draw line K that goes through the points 0, 3, and 5, 2, and then we're going to draw the line perpendicular to K that goes through 1, 2. So first thing you want to do is figure out the slope of line K. Pause the video and figure that out. Okay, so you should have gotten that the slope of line K was -1/5. So now draw the line that's perpendicular that goes through the point 1, 2. Pause it and then try it on your own. Okay, so your perpendicular slope is going to be a +5, so that means you go up 5 and over 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 1 from the point 1, 2. And then I can draw the line that goes through those 2 points. And so there you have the line that's perpendicular to line K and goes through the point 1, 2. This concludes the video. Thank you.